Hello everyone, Stephen Whiteside here from theuptrend.com with this week's edition of Protect Your Portfolio. In this weekly presentation, we take a longer-term look at the North American markets using weekly charts. Of course, we use weekly charts to filter out all of that market noise from Monday to Friday, so we're left with just one decision point, and that's the closing price from 4 p.m. Friday afternoon. Well, there's a couple of things happening right now that can rule out a major turnaround in the market this week. First of all, this is month end. It's August 30th today. Tomorrow's the last day of the month, and then September 1st. And of course, that time of the month has a bullish bias to it. Then, of course, we're coming up to a long weekend. Next weekend is a 3-day holiday weekend, and that usually has a bullish bias to it. So there's really no reason to be overly concerned about any impending downward pressure on the market over the next 5 trading days. Moving on to our charts, we'll start off with the daily chart of the VIX. You can see we popped on Thursday and generated a buy signal in the VIX, pulled back on Friday, so there was a little bit of tension in the market on Thursday and Friday. So we're going to remain short-term bearish on the market coming into Monday unless the VIX starts closing below 21.58, and that line is fairly flat at the moment, so we can use that line for the rest of the week. I am expecting it to be a fairly quiet week, not overly concerned about the VIX popping. A lot of talk about options traders moving their hedge positions farther out right now. Not concerned about the election, but concerned about what Trump might do after the election and whether he'll give up power in January, as he should if he loses. Nobody's saying he's lost the election yet, but just people are concerned about that time frame from election day to when there's the transfer of power. And so people are moving their hedges farther out than they normally would right now. Looking at a weekly chart of the VIX, you can see things were fairly quiet on the week. The VIX was up about the same as crude oil on the week, 1.86%. So we're still bullish on the market long term unless the VIX closes above $30.32 this coming Friday. Moving from the VIX to the major indices that we follow, starting with the SPDR ETF up over 3%, 3.28%. Following the NASDAQ, which was up 3.78% on the week. So both indices making higher highs. Of course, the rest of the market is still struggling. We saw the iShares for the Russell 2000 up 1.64%, inside week for the Russell 2000. So the rest of the market having a week of indecision. Then looking at the financials were up over 4% on the week. Still need to take out the high from 2 weeks ago. Then looking at bank stocks were up over 4%, but still had an inside week or a week of indecision, as did insurance stocks. I thought there'd be more volatility in the insurance sector with the natural disasters going on in the southern part of the U.S. right now. But a lot of sectors are looking very similar to this, where you're making higher lows, of course, which are bullish, but then you're also running into resistance up at the top of the open gap, which was created earlier this year. And we'll look at another sector that's dealing with the same issue right now. Moving on to the Canadian market, the iShares for the TSX 60 closing above $20 at above $25 at $25.20. Inside week for Canadian energy stocks, no change in trend there. Then financials, just like in the U.S., were up nicely, but just like in the U.S., there's a lot of sectors dealing with the top of that open gap. And so that is still acting as resistance. And then looking at gold stocks were up on the week, dipping into the channel before closing just above the upper channel line on Friday. And then looking at the commodities themselves, the GLD bounced off the upper channel line and closed higher on the week. We're still on a weekly buy signal for crude oil up 1.86%. And then we've got natural gas up for the 5th week in a row, making a new high for this move. Well, things haven't really changed at all. Apple Computer, Tesla still leading this market higher. Shopify, the biggest Canadian technology stock, looks like we've put in a high. We've tried 3 times to break out to higher highs here. We're still on a weekly buy signal, still making higher lows, but we have run into resistance. So possibility of something happening there. But for the most part, the leaders are still leading, and the rest of the market is still following the leaders. Unless that changes, I don't think you're going to see a major change in the market anytime soon. Okay, folks, that is all for this weekend's presentation. Still working on some technical issues here that we're trying to resolve as quickly as possible, but so we'll still be producing charts this week, but I will not be doing any pre-market videos. And next time you'll hear my voice is next Sunday. And once again, we'll take a look at protecting your portfolio.